Hi, I'm Bruce Moody, and I'm with Military, Community, and Family Policy. We're a Department of Defense agency, and we help military families as they navigate military life. We bring the military one source along with a whole range of resources to include casualty assistance, which is why this week we are in Nashville for the National Funeral Directors Association, which is wrapping up this morning, which explains why everybody is showing up with suitcases. All right, but before it ends, we're going to have kind of a wrap up with my guest, Lisa Valentine. And Lisa is a colleague of mine at Military, Community, and Family Policy. And she works with casualty and mortuary affairs and military funeral honors. Lisa, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Bruce, and it's also great to have you here this morning with us and throughout this week. I tell you, it's been very exciting to learn how the industry has changed. And one may ask, well, why the heck would a casualty assistance person come to a National Funeral Directors Association conference? Well, the truth of the matter is that the funeral industry not only is about casketing or preparing remains or cremation and funerals and so forth, there's also the emotional support aspect of it. And the funeral homes, they deal with this every day. They take care of our families and our customers, and we can learn from them as well as that they can learn from us about what our needs are, what their needs are, etc. Because I tell you what, you know, it's an evolving program, it's an evolving process, and it's very important that we stay connected to our partners so we know what changes are out there. I've learned some things, and I'm so excited and can't wait to get back to the office to put these new ideas out to hopefully provide additional support to our survivors.
So I think that's going to be our theme as we talk this morning, because we've been talking throughout the week, and it is an evolution on every aspect, from the technology to the families to the diversity of their ideas and traditions and needs, and also the ability to deliver. So let's talk about that. I want to hear, that evolution and then the need to keep up with that evolution. Can you talk about that with us?
Absolutely. So when we look at the history of casualty assistance, I mean, in the very beginning, widows, mostly they were widows because it was men that were serving in the military. When their husband would die, they were left on their own to try to figure out, are there benefits available and how to apply? And then as we've gone through different decades of conflicts and so forth, the assistance changed. I mean, it used to be that when your loved one died, or were missing and so forth, you received a telegram that was delivered to you to tell you, what has happened to your loved one. And now today, you're greeted with a team. It's at least 2 persons that are going to come to notify. They're going to be there to provide you support. And then from there, it's going to transition into a casualty assistance. So you're going to get what we call a casualty assistance officer. And depending on what service that your loved one was serving in, the name may be changed. So it might be a casualty assistance call officer. So that's what they call it in the Navy or the Coast Guard or the Marine Corps. Or if your member was in the Air Force, then you might be receiving assistance from a casualty assistance representative or a mortuary officer or a family assistance, or it's a family liaison officer. So it's just very different. But if you belong to the Army, it's a casualty assistance officer. So it just depends on what the service is, but basically the support that you receive is the same.
So names and terms, and of course we're in the military, so we love our acronyms. So I'm former Navy, retired Navy, so we had CACOs. But one of the defining aspects of it is it really is, at the end of the day, a relationship that forms very, very quickly between that casualty assistance representative and the families that they represent. Can you talk about that relationship? Because this is a difficult time, a fast-moving time, and they step in at the very beginning. And what does that relationship end up looking like?
So it's where you've got that person that's going to walk along your side until you're ready to be transitioned to continuing support. So DOD has a promise to its survivors that we will be there throughout your entire journey. And we do recognize that grief is a lifetime journey. We also recognize that as we age, our benefits change. And so we're there forever, for as long as survivors want us, and to help them along that road. But with that casualty assistance officer, they're there. They will take them to the different appointments with the specialist. So a casualty assistance officer, they're not going to be an expert on the benefits, but what they're going to be is knowledgeable of what benefits and entitlements are out there, what kind of benevolent organizations that may be out there to help them, maybe a support group, maybe it's a tragedy assistance program for survivors, or the Gold Star Wives, or the Gold Star Mothers, different organizations like that, or providing them resources. Maybe they are suffering from complicated grief or normal grief, and they don't know where to go. Just a myriad of things, or maybe they're having they need legal assistance because there's maybe complications with the estate, or perhaps they need assistance with filing that last tax form, or the final move. I mean, there are so many different aspects that a survivor goes through, and it isn't just applying for the benefits and then ends there. It's just learning how to find their new normal and to evolve as life continues. They may need support. For example, maybe they've got an exceptional family member and they need assistance just with everyday lives. Or now they have a student and maybe they're having difficulties because they're suffering from the loss of their parent. And they may not realize that there's resources out there where they can get free tutoring for their child and so forth. And that's where it goes into resources. And that's one of my passions, is to make sure, what kind of resources out there? How can we make life easier, a bit better? I feel like we owe this because their loved one, they died while serving our nation to provide us our freedoms. And so we need to do not our best, but Bruce, we need to do our very best, as the best that we possibly can for them. And so that's one of the things that I like to remind about our survivors. We have a myriad of resources on Military OneSource, and you can access it online. If you can't remember what the website is, because we say it's militaryonesource.mil, you can just Google it, or you can just do it on the search engine. And there's a myriad of resources that will pop up. We have a casualty assistance page. We even have military funeral honors. We have, what if you've got to probate a will? We even have these fabulous courses that, at least I think they are. I find them very educational myself, but we have MilLife Learning. And maybe you're having to make that last move, that final PCS move, and you're doing it this time without your loved one. How do you do it? And how are you going to be alone? You're going to do this alone. But really, we want our survivors to know that you're not alone. In different aspects of your life, we're there to help you. We even have on Military OneSource where they have life coaches that can help you. A lot of survivors may not know that that's out there for them. But just to help them to go through and pre-plan and so forth. And then also, too, one of the things that I take away from being here at the conference is pre-planning. Because now, for example, if you're a surviving spouse and you have children, what's going to happen if you should pass? Yeah. And so it's important to think about what is that future and so forth. So we also have resources on Military OneSource for that as well. And then we also want to make sure that we never forget. That's one of the things that we hear from our survivors, is not to forget their loved one. That's extremely important to them. And so how do we do that? We're very excited to know that we're going to be creating a digital memorial on Military OneSource for all active duty deaths, for those who have served honorably, so that they can be remembered. And then for our audience who may not be a military survivor, but you want to learn more, we have a fabulous e-tutorial about remembering service. And it talks about the history about the Gold Star. And what does that Gold Star mean? It talks about the Gold Star lapel button, as well as the service flag. And who gets to turn the blue star on the service flag to the Gold Star. And what is all of that about?
It's amazing. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it has really come a long way since the telegram, as you say. And there is so much. And I think what you're getting at is that, families will discover through the process what they need. And there is so much. And a lot of it they may not initially associate with casualty assistance, tutoring, as you mentioned, or moving. But that's why the casualty assistance officer, or whatever the service representative is, that's why they're there, to help them through that discovery process, along with, and I know you mentioned a lot, but you kept on mentioning Military OneSource. So we'll put a link to Military OneSource, the casualty assistance page, which is really an entry point to a ton of materials. Two things about that page. There is a ton of materials, and you can dive as deep as you want. And at any given time, you'll see a phone number to our call center, and you can talk to a real person. So, if you just want to learn more, and you're not in a situation where you have a casualty assistance officer assigned to you, there is still, of course, the Military OneSource call center. So, and that's why we call it OneSource, Military OneSource, because it really is there to help people as they discover their needs.
Absolutely. And Bruce, another thing too that, you hear from survivors when they're going through that really, the initial stages of grief,
Yeah.
the nighttime, it's very, very difficult to sleep and so forth. And you may be busy just doing just the everyday things just to try to make it through the day. And finally it's quiet. And then you might think, oh, I forgot about this and so forth. If you have a question or you need to talk to somebody, you can call Military OneSource in the middle of the night. And what's really cool about Military OneSource is you're not going to get a recording or push a button on this app and so forth. You're actually going to get a human, a person who cares and is going to provide you that compassionate support and that listening ear.
Yeah. We actually have teams of people answering phones around the clock every day. A lot of them are from a military background. They understand military. They understand your language, your culture, the environment from which you come. They can really listen and help you find what you need. Lisa, you mentioned earlier, before we went on, that there is the next step or the next phase is the long-term care. So at some point, the casualty assistance representative steps down, and then there's a long-term care, which could go on into the future. Can you talk about that level of care, what that is, and what it does?
Absolutely. So we know that our military personnel, eventually they have to go back to their military mission because that's their main purpose. But when they're serving as a casualty assistance officer, that family member that they're taking care of, that is their number one mission, most important. But then eventually they've got to transition back to their regular duties, and they're going to do a warm handoff with the survivor to their long-term care manager. So for example, the Army calls theirs the Survivor Outreach Services. Mm-hmm. So there's assigned long-term manager that will assist that family member for as long as they want. Because again, it goes back to grief changes along the way. It doesn't ever go away, but it just changes. And maybe they need support down the road. Second, their benefits may change, and there may be questions. And one of the things I did forget to mention is, and I want to make sure not to forget, is the online survivors benefit report. And that's how survivors, they can go on Military OneSource, and they can download their report if they're a surviving spouse or if they're an adult child. And a guardian, at this time, they can't do it electronically, but we do have a family assistance support team that's available Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 during regular work days, and that can assist and give them mail them a hard copy of the report. But then we also have, for example, with the Air Force, they call theirs Air Force Families Forever. And then we have the Navy Gold Star program, or the Coast Guard Gold Star program. That's like a tongue twister. And then for the Marine Corps, they just call it the Marine Corps Long-Term Care. So
And again, it's all on Military One Source. We'll get those links up for you so people know where to go. So back to Nashville, back to where we are. We're in a ginormous room full of professionals from across the casualty and mortuary affairs field. And I think what we've discovered is, or the reason that we're here, is because there is this constant evolution, and it's on an evolution on so many different levels. There is the technology, there is the offerings that the industry provides, but also the evolution of how people grieve, because that changes over time, and it also changes from person to person depending on their background, their traditions, their expectations. So how does the Department of Defense keep pace with all those types of evolutions?
Well, we have to go out there into the industry and see what's new. What are they hearing from their customers? Because our customers are just a segment of the American population. Their moms, their dads, their brothers, their sisters, their husbands, their wives, and the list just continues. And so what is out there, and what are they hearing from their customers? Because chances are we're hearing the same from ours, or maybe we just don't know. Because with the military, sometimes we're very regimented, and and I think one of the things that I really have embraced by being here is to think different. And I think it's important that by thinking different, we can be more creative. And when you're more creative, then you can produce or provide those services and create as the best that you can, the best experience for the worst time of someone's life. So that you remember all those little details, because those little details, they mean a lot. It's it's the little things that mean a lot in life.
So, this is a topic that people probably don't talk about at home or with their friends to the extent that they may cover other topics. So the pass down of knowledge is probably not as rich in this area. So when we go back to talking about things like Military One Source, the call center, the casualty assistance personnel, how are they trained to be in tune to what the people are needing or asking for?
So the Department of Defense has different avenues. One of them is the DOD Survivor Survey. We're looking for trends and any issues that are out there to see that we need to resolve and so forth. And we also have a survivor's inquiry form. So if a survivor has a question and they're not sure where to go, then we invite them, please go to our website, and we will get you to an expert to help to resolve your situation or your question. We also have the Gold Star and Surviving Family Representative Program. So if you feel that you should be receiving an entitlement or a benefit and are having difficulties, we're there to help with that. Or if you have a complaint with the assistance that you're receiving, we want to know that too. Because again, we want to make sure that we don't just do our best, we want to do our very best. And we feel very strongly that that's what we owe the survivors of our...
It's more than just policy.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I really see that. I see that in my colleagues. They understand the absolute real application of the things that they work on from day to day. You really get that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to our conversation?
I just would recommend to our audience, if you haven't yet, go and seek out militaryonesource.mil. And if you just forget about the .mil, just go in the search engine, Military One Source. If you're a survivor of a veteran, I strongly recommend checking out the Office of Survivors Assistance, and they are va.gov/survivors.
Right.
But they're our partners too, and it takes a community. And so the partnerships that we have, whether it's the civilian industry, our nonprofit organizations, and so forth, that's part of the community. But again, we want you all come out and visit Military One Source.
And that community is your entry into the community is through Military One Source, and Military One Source is available to survivors for life. So for military folks, once you hang up your uniform, whether you separate or retire, it's still eligible to you for another 365 days. For a survivor, it's for life. So I'll remind you again, there's a link down below for you to go and check it out.
And Bruce, one more thing.
Yeah.
By coming out to the civilian industry, we have a new partner, and it's a journey to serve. So if we have surviving spouses or we have veterans who are interested in joining the funeral industry, there is opportunities for them to apply for scholarships and to receive the education that they need to come in and serve in a different way.
Right. So we did a Facebook Live a couple of days ago about Journey to Serve. We'll get a link to that, to their stuff, and we'll get that down in the comment section down below. And if you have comments, if you have anything you'd like to share with us, or if you have any questions, go ahead and get them posted, and we will get back to you. Lisa, absolute pleasure. Great to speak with you today.
And you too, Bruce. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you. Bye-bye.